So apparently space fantasy themed trap music is a thing. Huh. The more you know. Okay, jumping right back into it, we've got our dungeon pieces covered in Mod Podge or PVA glue and black paint. After they've dried completely, we're going to touch up the paint job, trying to reach total opacity by applying another layer or another couple layers of flat black paint. I'm using apple barrel black because it's cheap and it gives pretty good coverage. The one thing about craft paints you want to keep in mind is they're really thick. They're basically coarse ground pigments and a bunch of matte medium. So you want to water them down a little bit so they don't obscure a bunch of detail. I'm just coming around with a large brush, hitting all those places, getting black paint into the recesses, and I'm actually not too concerned about the raised areas because they're going to get hit with a bunch of different colors, including gray. Alright, then I'm coming in with folk art raw sienna. Any sort of browny yellow will work. And I'm watering that down just a little bit. It's already pretty transparent, this particular paint. Just taking a cheap brush that doesn't even have a point, and I'm just applying it in patches along the bottom, the sides, the brick texture, and I'm keeping this pretty watered down. I'm actually not going for total opacity with any of the colors that will comprise what I consider the base layer. So just working my way around, establishing patches. A lot of this is going to be covered up by a dark or a medium gray overbrushing. So the idea here is that since acrylic paints are pretty translucent, the gray paint on top of them will kind of be tinted by these colors. Okay, then I come in with burnt sienna, which is kind of like a toasty terracotta color. And I'm not sure that these oxides would exist right next to each other in reality, but I like the color scheme. And I'm applying this in more patches, kind of in the intermediate spaces between the previously established patches of raw sienna. I'm kind of building up a pathway in the dungeon where people would travel. It kind of implies wear and tear through people walking in and out of it. And I'm applying a second coat of the raw sienna simply because it's a lot more transparent and I do want some color buildup. Alright, once those two colors are down, I'm coming in with like a light sage green and just applying it in patches. This could be moss, fungus, whatever, but use whatever colors you want. I'd just say be bold with your color choices. You could use blue, you could use oranges, which we're already using pretty much an orange. But yeah, no matter what you do, whatever you choose, it's going to look good. That burnt sienna is a little thick for me, so I just water it down a little bit and do the laziest wet blending job ever. It's actually so lazy you can't even call it wet blending. And you definitely want to use craft paints for this. Would not recommend using your model paint for a number of different reasons. One, price, and two, model paints are generally meant to be layered. So you take a lot of coats to reach an opaque color. Alright, boom, this is a larger piece. I didn't do this on video, but you know the techniques to make whatever size pieces you want. And I'm just applying the colors the same way. Patchy, almost camouflage pattern. Now, in this dungeon system, I'm creating a bunch of small, like ubiquitous rooms and hallways, and then for individual encounters, I will periodically create a larger room. So over time, I'll build up quite a collection of unique rooms. And once all the base paint is down, those three paints that we applied in patches to the rock texture, I'm coming in with a medium gray. And I'm not diluting this at all. I'm taking a large flat brush and essentially doing an overbrush, Kind of like a dry brush technique, but with a lot more paint. The reason it's not watered down is because I want it to stick and remain kind of tacky to the upraised parts so that it doesn't seep into the recesses. So in the recesses you'll have a mixture of black, some green, some orange, and some browny yellow. And then I'm going lighter on the bricks, but it's still coming in with the overbrush. Trying to keep in mind not to go too hard on the bricks because they're pretty shallow in their detail and it's really easy to get into the grout lines with your paint. And if you don't have a lot of experience working with acrylic paints or paints in general, keep in mind that they will dry darker than they appear when you first put them on. There's water in the paints before they dry, and that reflects light, making them appear lighter. So don't stress yourself out if you think you go too hard. Okay, now for the actual dry brush. I take a light gray, this is Folk Art Steel Gray, and I'm taking a makeup contour brush and wiping the majority of the paint off. And then in a couple of light passes, just going over the piece, hitting the most raised areas. I really like makeup brushes for this. They have large coverage and the very fine hairs. I think they're great for dry brushing terrain. And I'm trying to go pretty light on the brick design. Now when it comes to dry brushing, I'm kind of playing it dangerously. I have a lot of paint on that brush. Oh, and this happened. Yeah, be mindful of where your paint is relative to the object you're painting. Anyways, yeah, I'm playing it kind of dangerous with this dry brush. I have a lot of paint on it. The safe bet is to just, work in small amounts of paint and just do a number of rounds of dry brushing so you don't go too overboard, because it's really hard to pull back. You can do it with washes, but I'm not doing washes on this build. And that's pretty much it, guys. That's, in a nutshell, the painting technique that I'm using for this. I hope you found this useful or inspiring. Like, share, and subscribe, but only if you want to. We've got a modular desert board build coming up next. 6 parts, all parts examining different techniques. All right, thank you so much for watching. Have a great day.